Unveiling the sinister secrets of my haunted embalming case, 3 details you won't believe. Jessie stood in the dimly lit basement of the Maplewood mortuary, heart pounding as shadows flickered from the lone bulb swinging above her head. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, with the smell of dust and something more sinister lurking beneath the surface. Just another late shift, she reminded herself, scanning the cluttered space that had grown claustrophobic over weeks of shifting boxes and avoiding the memories trapped inside them. Yet, as she rummaged through the forgotten chaos, a sense of dread coiled tighter around her. Suddenly, something caught her eye: an old, dusty embalming case hidden behind heavy cardboard boxes weighed down by years of neglect. With shaking hands, she pried it open, heart racing. A rush of stale air escaped, and a chill cascaded down her spine. Inside lay strange trinkets, a cracked porcelain doll, rusted keys, and a faded photograph of a family. Their smiles were hauntingly cheerful, yet their vacant eyes seemed to plead for release. Jessie felt a jolt of recognition. She had heard whispers about this family's mysterious disappearance. It sent shivers down her spine, igniting a storm of curiosity mixed with unease. "Don't open it, Jessie," a voice in her head cautioned, the same nagging instinct that had kept her awake at night. But she was tired of living with echoes. The mortuary's nightly silence wrapped around her like a noose, tightening with each late shift. She decided to dig deeper, feeling the weight of her anxious son Lucas on her heart. The whispers of the past could wait no longer. Before she dove into the mystery, Jessie remembered the words of a friendly neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, a real pillar of the community, whom she had spoken with earlier. Her warm smile felt too perfect, hiding something sinister beneath. "Just tired," Mrs. Thompson had shrugged when Jessie mentioned her shifts. "It'll get better, dear." But Jessie could feel Mrs. Thompson's eyes tracking her, like dark clouds growing ever closer. The days slipped by, and the basement had become a portal of dread. Muffled whispers echoed down the hallways of her home. Shadows danced in her peripheral vision, and the sensation of being watched was relentless. Jessie fought to shrug it off as fatigue, but deep down, fear began to gnaw at her resolve. When Lucas, her gentle teenage son, started having vivid visions of the vanished family memories that weren't his, Jessie's heart dropped. They revealed the disquiet down the street, a darkness that clung to manicured lawns and pristine driveways. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jessie pieced together the threads that tied their life in Maplewood to the echoes of those who had vanished. With every thin breeze that rattled the window panes, she felt the barriers of sanity closing in. Mrs. Thompson's casual interest turned into an obsession, an unsettling presence that left her feeling trapped. Jessie now saw her not as a friend, but a key player in a horrifying game, where innocence was mere performance. As the neighbor leaned in closer, her eyes glittered with something dark and ancient. Jessie felt her world tilt, heart racing as she stood at the precipice of twisted truths. Anything could emerge from the shadows, and she had to protect Lucas. To uncover the roots of this suburban nightmare, she realized she would have to confront the very secrets the polished faces around her had buried deep. The mystery loomed larger, and the stakes climbed higher. What darkness lurked behind the kind facade of those she'd trusted? As she stood trembling, clutching the relics of the past, Jessie wrestled with a chilling thought. Could uncovering the truth mean shattering the last remnants of her fragile reality? Soon, every comforting smile would turn hostile, and Maplewood would show its true colors. Jessie braced herself as the weight of impossible choices crashed down on her. She felt trapped in a tightening web, woven from the echoes of the past and the piercing eyes of her seemingly friendly neighbors. The delicately painted smiles of Maplewood's residents morphed into masks, hiding something lethal beneath. With her heart pounding, she returned to the embalming case, its cracked lid gaping like a mouth ready to divulge secrets. The photograph felt like a shackle around her wrist, pulling her into the story of the family once whole, now lost. Could those haunting gazes be warning her? She swallowed hard, attempting to shake away the fear. Lucas's visions were becoming clearer, dragging him deeper into the shadows she'd only begun to unearth. "Mom." His voice shattered the stillness, echoing from the top of the basement stairs. Jessie jolted, the untamed fear in his tone wrapping around her heart like a vice. "Lucas, what's wrong?" The heavy thud of his footsteps grew closer. Jessie felt her skin prickling, the air thickening with dread. As Lucas burst into the room, he looked pale, his eyes wide with something Jessie couldn't decipher. Panic, dread, urgency. "I've seen them again, Mom, the family. I don't think they've just disappeared." "What do you mean?" The depth of his words sent a shiver down her spine, fueling her fear. "What did you see?" They were reaching out. "They want to be found." Each word slipped from his lips like a ghostly whisper, chilling Jessie to her core. What could they possibly want from him, from her? The basement swung under a heavy silence, shadows stretching like claws, filling the corners where light couldn't touch. Jessie's mind buzzed with questions. Every instinct told her to turn back, to lock away whatever dark revelations lay ahead. A damp chill bit at her, a premonition slinking through her thoughts. "Maybe we should leave Maplewood," she proposed, voice trembling. "Get away from all of this." Lucas shook his head, oppressed by something deeper. "No, Mom. We have to help them. They're trapped. I can feel it." Fear tore at her heart, and yet the look in Lucas's eyes, a painful mix of determination and fear, tugged at her will. "But we don't even know what it means to help them," Jessie argued, but the fight in her was waning. Suddenly, a loud bang reverberated through the basement, rattling the boxes. Both Jessie and Lucas jumped, heart rate skyrocketing. The photo fluttered from her hands, scattering across the floor. Her breath hitched, the sense of being watched solidified, coiling around her throat. "Mom." Lucas's voice broke through the tension as he edged closer, gripping her arm, his voice sharp with panic. "What if we're being hunted?" Panic flared in Jessie's chest. There was a relentless pressure pushing in from all sides, suffocating her. "We need to get out of here." She turned, desperate to escape the haunted whispers of their past. But before they made their move, the basement door creaked open, revealing the silhouette of Mrs. Thompson, framed by the dim light behind her. "Jessie, dear," she cooed, that too-sweet voice filled with an unsettling warmth. "I thought you'd be down here. You shouldn't be digging into things best left buried." Jessie felt Lucas stiffen beside her, fear radiating from him like heat. The realization crashed into her like a tidal wave. Their quaint, quiet town was a facade, hiding something ominous within. "What do you mean?" Jessie tried to sound defiant, but her voice wavered, betraying her gut instinct. Mrs. Thompson stepped closer, an unreadable smile stretching across her lips. "It's time to understand the truth of Maplewood, dear. They're waiting for you to listen, and they don't take kindly to those who don't." A cold shudder raced down Jessie's spine as she felt the air grow cold around her. Lucas stepped back, their surroundings throbbing with an intensity that left both of them gasping. Jessie feared their decision would shatter everything they held dear. "Who else is waiting?" Jessie managed to ask, though the words felt heavy, burdened by the weight of the unknown. Mrs. Thompson tilted her head slightly, her expression darkening. "Oh, you'll find out soon enough. Just remember, dear, some secrets are worth dying for." Her heart froze as the door creaked ominously behind Mrs. Thompson, shadows swirling and rising, preparing to engulf them both. What did it mean? Who would fall victim next? The question echoed in the dark corners of the basement, begging for an answer that felt far too close for comfort. Jessie felt her pulse quicken, the air growing thick and suffocating in the basement. The shadows around Mrs. Thompson seemed to swirl with life, writhing like dark serpents eager to strike. Jessie instinctively stepped back, clutching Lucas's arm, their world shrinking into an unbearable spotlight. "Maybe we should listen to her," Mom, Lucas whispered, his voice barely a tremor in the oppressive darkness. "No, we can't." Jessie shot back, barely masking the rising terror gripping her throat. "This isn't some ghost story. We are knee-deep in whatever cursed history this town hides, and I refuse to bury us in its soil." Mrs. Thompson's smile grew wider, as if her pleasant facade was more a mask than she initially let on. She beckoned, and the shadows obeyed, filling the space between them with swirling intensity. This isn't about being buried, dear. It's about awakening what has long been forgotten. What they want is far more significant than you realize. The way she spoke sent a shiver down Jessie's spine, bringing back memories of the ghostly family Lucas had shared visions of. Hadn't they been trapped? The very thought made her stomach turn. What did that mean for her and her son? Suddenly, the basement lights flickered, casting long, distorted shadows across the walls. Jessie's heart raced, and she clung tighter to Lucas, who mirrored her fear. "Mom, I think they're getting closer," he mumbled. His eyes darted to the darkened corners, as if expecting a pair of hands to reach out and drag them into the abyss. "Stay close to me," Jessie urged, her voice firm yet shaky. A deep instinct screamed that danger was coiling around them like a predator. They had to escape now. "Is running away ever a solution, Jessie?" Mrs. Thompson's voice slipped through the silence, unsettlingly calm. "You have nowhere to run. The darkness knows your every step. And the family? They're not merely waiting, they're hungry." Jessie shook her head, the implications causing her chest to tighten. "What do you mean?" As Mrs. Thompson leaned in closer, Jessie caught a glimpse of something grotesque beneath her cheery guise. The air carried a rotten smell, a hint of decay. Jessie's thoughts churned. What if escaping was futile? What if this town fed on the fear of those who sought to leave? Look around you. Maplewood is a living entity, thriving on its secrets and fears. There is a price to knowing. Her eyes hardened, darkening to two bottomless pits. Some will perish, and some will rise. It's your choice. Choice. Jessie spat out the word like venom, needing to rally. "You think we have a choice in this?" Mrs. Thompson's smile faded, replaced by something colder, menacing. "Oh dear. You have a choice. Just as I had mine the day I decided to listen. And trust me, they will come for you either way." In that moment, the basement door creaked again, slamming shut, and Jessie felt the temperature drop. Panic exploded in her chest. She tried to imagine how helpless they could become trapped in this hell. "You will understand soon enough," Mrs. Thompson whispered with finality as the walls closed in. "They cannot bear the weight of silence much longer. You will hear their cries in the dead of night, their pleas for release. It's all part of the cycle." Jessie's breath came fast and shallow. She thought of Lucas, how desperate he was to help the lost family, how much he terrified her with the truth he saw. If that was their fate, we'll never help them. Lucas shouted suddenly, stepping forward to confront Mrs. Thompson. "Let us out. I won't let you trap us here." But Mrs. Thompson simply laughed, the sound echoing like a sinister melody through the cold corners of the basement. "Oh, dear boy, that's where we differ. You don't realize the gravity of your own power. Do you truly believe you can escape what you are meant to fulfill?" Jessie felt the walls start to ripple, shadows stretching toward them. She needed a plan. They needed an ally before she could formulate a thought. The basement lights flickered one last time and went out completely, plunging them into suffocating darkness. The air was electric, crackling, like before a storm. Then she heard it, a soft whimpering echoing through the abyss, melding with her own rising fear. "Mom." Lucas grasped her shoulder tightly. "They're coming." In that fragile moment, something cold brushed against Jessie's cheek, a whisper curling around her consciousness. What had they awakened? What if they couldn't silence it again? The echoing wails grew louder, clearer, and then they fell silent. And just like that, the secrets of Maplewood lingered in the heavy air, waiting for Jessie and Lucas to confront their darkest fears or perish trying. What awaited them in the dark? Jessie couldn't breathe, but she had to find out. Jessie's heart thundered in her chest as the darkness wrapped around them like a suffocating shroud. She felt the weight of silence pressing down, each second stretching into an eternity. With her mind racing, she tried to locate the source of the sound, the whimpering, low and mournful like a wounded animal lost in the shadows. "Lucas," she hissed, her voice trembling. "Can you see anything?" "No. It's too dark." His voice was a panicked shriek now, and it sent a jolt of dread coursing through her. Jessie strained her ears, hoping the silence might give way to answers. Instead, a cold draft wafted through, sending a shiver down her spine. The scent of decay embraced her nostrils, mingling with a sickening sweetness that pulled at her stomach. "Mom." I can. Lucas's words faltered. I can feel them. It's like something is watching us. Lucas, focus. She thought of Mrs. Thompson and how the woman had reveled in their growing fear. The basement felt alive, pulsating with an energy that was both foreign and terrifying. We need to move. But just as she started to turn, the whimpering emerged again, louder this time, echoing through the darkness, no longer just an echo, but a chorus of haunting cries. Jessie stumbled forward instinctively, searching for a light switch, anything that might help them escape. Please, the desperate plea mingled with the wails, sending chills down her spine. Help us, who is there? She shouted, voice wavering. Show yourself. The shadows flickered around her, distorting the walls like a funhouse mirror. Shapes began to emerge, unsettling silhouettes twisting in and out of focus. Jessie's breath caught in her throat. Then she saw them, figures coalescing out of the darkness with gaunt faces and hollow eyes, their mouths opening in silent screams, each stretching toward her, hungry and desperate. They reached out with long, bony fingers, their skin the color of ash. Mom. Lucas shrank back against her, trembling. We have to get out, Jessie yelled, panic flooding her system. But as she pulled him along, she felt an unseen force push back against them, holding them in place. Stay with us, the wailing voices implored, a cacophony that swirled through the basement like a storm. We need you now. You can't have us. Jessie screamed, clenching Lucas's hand tightly. It was as if the basement quaked with their defiance. Walls pulsated as a frenzy of shadows danced with furious abandon. Fight it, Jessie cried, drawing on every ounce of strength as she pressed forward, trying to shield Lucas from the ghastly figures. We're not afraid of you. Suddenly, one of the figures broke free from the shadows, an emaciated woman, her eyes wide and pleading, mouth twisted in agony. You do not understand, she rasped. We were trapped here just like you. This place feeds on fear. You must listen now. Jessie refused, pushing back against the evil that threatened to suffocate them. The basement shook violently, the whimpering turning into frantic screams. We need help. We need to be freed. Mom, please. Lucas clutched her hand tighter. Fear rolled off him in waves, palpable and raw. What if we can help them? Jessie hesitated, doubt creeping in. What if helping them meant doom for her and Lucas? We can't take that risk, Lucas. But as their voices grew louder, drowning out her protests, the shadows began to blur around her. They're trying to take us, can't you see? Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, revealing Mrs. Thompson standing just behind the figures, her eyes sparkling with malicious glee. Oh, my dear ones, it's too late for that now. Jessie's heart dropped as the basement filled with a horrific tableau of despair, lost souls reaching for her, their faces twisted in torment. What would they demand from her? Would their cries for release become chains that bound her? She opened her mouth to scream, but stopped when she heard their words merging into a single dark harmony, echoing in a chilling chorus. Join us. Jessie, help awaken the nightmare, and as the shadows closed in, Jessie realized there was no escaping Maplewood's darkness. The question wasn't just about survival. It was whether she could silence the hungry whispers of the past, or let them consume her entirely. What would Jessie choose when the truth was laid bare? Time was slipping away. Jessie's heart raced as the basement's palpable dread surged like a rising tide. The figures lunged toward her, their voices blending into a maddening chorus. Join us, help awaken the nightmare. Each syllable was infused with desperation and longing, setting her nerves ablaze. She squeezed Lucas's hand, feeling the clammy sweat pooling in his palm. We can't, she shouted, but the words felt hollow against the haunting cries that reverberated around them. Suddenly, the air thickened, pressing in like a vice. Jessie squinted against the dimness, searching for an escape. She had to keep moving. With all her strength, she shoved forward, pulling Lucas past the nearest figure whose ashen fingers grazed her arm, sending a shock that rippled through her body. Mom, they're everywhere. Lucas whimpered, his voice barely breaking through the cacophony. The shadows roiled around them, reaching hungrily as if to draw them into their void. We need to find the stairs, Jessie blurted, adrenaline fueling her fight. They stumbled forward, but the moment her feet met the vandalized wooden steps, a deafening crack echoed through the basement. Jessie's heart sank, and she froze. The old wood was already splintering under her weight. Lucas, don't move, she warned, fear tinging her words like poison. Above them, Mrs. Thompson's laughter cascaded down, chilling the air. "You think you can escape?" she taunted, her voice like icy water splashing against their skin. "This place is alive. It feeds on what you fear." "Mom, we have to go," Lucas shouted, his voice trembling as he looked up, eyes wide with terror. With a fierce determination, Jessie took a deep breath. "Hold on tight." She pulled Lucas closer and darted towards an old wooden door on the far wall, praying it wouldn't be locked. The shadows shrieked in fury, hands reaching out like nooses, desperate to ensnare them. Time felt liquid. Every heartbeat echoed like thunder. Jessie barely touched the door handle. "Simon," she growled, twisting the knob. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow passageway wrapped in darkness. The stench of decay was overpowering, but it offered a possible way out. "No, don't go in there," a figure pleaded, its voice cutting through her resolve. It was the emaciated woman again, desperation flaring in her hollow eyes. "You can't trust the darkness. It will trap you like it did us." Jessie hesitated, glancing back in fear. "If we stay here, we die?" she yelled, heart racing. Without waiting for a response, she pushed through the door and dragged Lucas along. Instantly, the shadows howled, crashing against the door behind them, trapping the figures in a swirling mass of fury. The passageway narrowed, forcing them to squeeze through the oppressive crush. The sound of their panicked breaths echoed around them, mingling with the whispers that crept along the cool, damp walls. "Mom, what is happening?" Lucas gasped, his voice a fragile thread of hope fading fast. "I don't know," Jessie panted, fear clawing at her throat, but had to act. They pressed on through the eerily tight corridor, unaware of the lurking presence that stirred behind them, the twisted shadows growing restless, desperate to reclaim their lost prey. As they reached a fork in the passage, the walls trembled, vibrating with an unseen energy. The air thickened with dread, and one path glimmered faintly, while the other lay cloaked in darkness. "Which way?" Lucas cried, his voice unsteady, every ounce of trust aimed at her. Jessie inhaled sharply, feeling the ghostly whispers surround them, urging her to choose. With a pounding heart, she weighed the eerie glow against the suffocating silence of the dark. "I don't know, Lucas," she shouted, slipping further back into panic, feeling the walls close in on her sanity. "Pick. We don't have time," he urged, desperation in his tone. A shadow flickered just beyond the glimmering light, beckoning with insidious intent. And as those sinister whispers grew into a roaring storm, Jessie realized she was no longer just fighting for their escape. She was fighting for her very soul. Which path would lead to salvation and which would seal their fate? In that moment of uncertainty, shadows surged forward, the figures forming a relentless tide behind them, and Jessie's breaths caught in her throat as she felt the malevolence drawing closer, a dark promise of what lay ahead. What awaited them as the darkness bared its teeth? Choices would need to be made, but at what cost? Jessie pressed herself against the cold stone wall, her heart hammering like a war drum. The whispers grew louder, and with every second that ticked by, she felt the shadows clawing at the edges of her mind. "Lucas, we have to decide now," she cried, desperately scanning the two paths in front of them. The glimmering light coiled around her, a serpent of hope, while the dark path hung like a waiting predator. "Please," Jessie Lucas whimpered, his small frame trembling against her. The shadows seethed behind them, a tangible force that grew darker with each hesitation. "Okay, right," she shouted, reaching for the glimmering path. They sprinted forward, uncertainty driving them like fear drives prey. But the moment they stepped into the illuminated corridor, it pulsed with an eerie rhythm, almost breathing as they moved deeper. Jessie felt a rush of relief, but the air felt sharp, slicing into her lungs, filling her with dread. The walls whispered secrets, words she couldn't comprehend, promises of safety that twisted her gut. "Mom, it feels wrong," Lucas said, his voice quavering. The sounds around them shifted. The whispers transformed into guttural growls, warning them of the temptation that lay ahead. The flickering light danced like flame, flickering shadows springing to life, leaping over Jessie's shoulder as if teasing their very existence. "Keep going," she urged, her voice steadying despite the storm inside her. The corridor branched a few feet ahead, the light growing brighter but revealing a grotesque sight. Inky black veins spread across the walls like a twisted web, pulsating with an unnatural rhythm. Jessie felt an urge to reach out, to touch the gleaming strands, as if they might provide some magical answer to their plight. "What is this?" Jessie gasped, the realization stinging like ice. They had chosen the wrong path. A figure materialized ahead, a silhouette cloaked in the glow, beckoning them closer. It stood still, a dark figment amid the light. "You seek answers, don't you?" Its voice was sweet, honeyed yet sinister, wrapping around them like chains. The figure stepped forward, revealing its face a twisted reflection of what Jessie thought she knew. Eerily familiar yet wrong. "Join me, and I will show you the way out. What do you want?" Jessie blurted, unwilling to step closer. The figure's smile widened, revealing rows of sharp, glimmering teeth. "I want what you fear," it cooed, each word like a finger tracing down her spine. "You seek to save your son, but every choice has a price. What are you willing to pay?" Lucas shrank back, clutching Jessie's arm tightly. The threatening shadows surged toward them, crawling on the floor, seeking purchase. "Mom, I don't like this," he yelped, eyes darting to the dark path behind them. "It's okay, Lucas," Jessie urged, but her voice wavered. The figure drifted closer, wreathed in light. "I'll protect you." Suddenly, the walls of the corridor trembled, cracking like glass. Footsteps echoed behind them as another presence emerged from the shadows, an impossibly tall, looming figure, its face shrouded in darkness. The other figure turned suddenly, trembling slightly, and the whispers grew to a frantic crescendo. "Run!" Jessie screamed, stumbling backward as the ground beneath them shuddered violently. They had to escape, but could they trust the shadows? In a flash, they darted down the corridor leading away from the ghastly figure. Jessie led the charge, her instincts sharp but fear blinding. Behind, she could hear the growls, the shadows snarling in pursuit, hungry for their souls. The corridor twisted impossibly, the walls shifting as if the very structure was alive. "Where are we going?" Lucas cried, his voice cracking in the tempest of fear. "Anywhere but here," Jessie yelled, her breath coming in choking gasps. But just as she turned a corner, the corridor collapsed in on itself, and they fell into darkness, tumbling into an abyss of despair. Jessie grasped for Lucas, but he slipped from her fingers, screaming as the shadows enveloped him. "Lucas!" she cried, panic surging, moments stretched like eternity as she reached out, terrified of what lay in the dark. "Make a choice." A voice boomed, an echo that reverberated through the void. Jessie couldn't tell if it was coming from the shadows or her own mind, but it filled her with dread. What choice could she make when all paths led to despair? And in that moment of heart-wrenching confusion, she felt the weight of her decision crash down, the very essence of their lives hanging in the balance. Was salvation just a heartbeat away, or were they destined to be lost in the darkness forever? Jessie's world was swallowed by silence. The darkness felt thick and alive, like an entity wrapping around her, squeezing the breath from her lungs. She blinked, vainly trying to adjust to the nothingness that had consumed them. Panic fluttered in her chest as memories of Lucas flooded her thoughts, his laughter, his tiny hands clutching hers. "Lucas!" she called out, her voice trembling. The word echoed back to her, twisted by the void, and she felt utterly alone. A glimmer caught her eye, a faint shimmering glow stirring in the distance. She focused on it, the sharp sensation of hope igniting a flame inside her. Moving cautiously, she took a step forward, her feet meeting something soft, like a carpet of shadows. Fear prickled her skin, but she pressed on, driven by desperation. With each step, the faint light grew stronger, illuminating the ground beneath her. But it wasn't just a path, it was strewn with objects, shattered glass, fading photographs, and twisted metal. Each item whispered a story, shadows weaving around details she couldn't afford to examine. "Stop! Don't go further!" A voice shrieked from behind, cold and mocking. Jessie spun around, instinctively shielding herself. The tall figure from before loomed now, more defined. It distorted the light, flickering like a dying bulb, but Jessie recognized its shape. A nightmare, but with a familiar scent of dread her own past. "Why are you doing this?" Jessie shouted, defiance emerging from her fear. The figure laughed, low and distorted, like metal scraping against stone. You know what you're seeking. Every choice you made, every moment of weakness, it's all here. She remembered the mistakes, the secrets kept, the haunting regret. No, I didn't come here for this. Jessie cried, shaking her head, but the truth clawed at her insides. The shadows writhed, wriggling like snakes, pulling her into their depths. Jessie stumbled back, her breath quickening as they whispered her name, each syllable echoing her failures, amplifying her guilt. Just then, she felt a tug at her heart. The flutter of Lucas's presence brushed against her. Mom. His voice, a lifeline in the storm, ignited something deep within. With renewed determination, she turned back to the featherlight glow. I'm coming. As she ran, the shadows lunged. The growls intensified, slithering through the air like frozen knives. Jessie could nearly feel them wrapping around her ankles, trying to drag her down. But the light was within reach. She burst through, collapsing to the ground just as she crossed the threshold, the warmth of illumination washing over her. But something was wrong. The light pulsed like a heartbeat, and as she looked around, she realized she was no longer alone. Figures loomed in the bright space, faces shadowed but eyes glinting with malice. They reached out, fingers extended, as if welcoming her into their fold. Welcome back, Jessie, they whispered in unison. What do you want from me? She gasped, her heart racing. Your son or your past, the figures replied, voices like honey but tinged with malice. Make a choice. Jessie's mind whirled, stunned. They were waiting for her to decide. But how could she choose? Each option felt like an anchor pulling her under. She thought of Lucas, his bright eyes, his laughter. She'd gladly trade everything for him. I refuse. She yelled, the defiance rising like a tide. The figures recoiled, and the light flickered, dimming. But in that moment of rejection, a sudden surge of shadow lunged forward, hungry and desperate, blurring the lines between truth and nightmare. Then silence. Jessie felt the cold grip of the shadows return, tightening around her, as if trying to reclaim what she had fought against. In the creeping darkness, she heard Lucas again, his voice softer now, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. Mom, help me please. A choice loomed ahead, darker and more terrifying than anything she'd faced yet. With every beat of her heart, the weight of survival pressed down on her, stifling, unrelenting. Would her next decision bring them closer to freedom, or plunge them into a deeper abyss? The anticipation of a nightmare pressed in, a truth yet to be unveiled. What choice lay in the heart of shadows? The air thickened, twisting around Jessie like a suffocating shroud. The faint glow pulsed rhythmically, a signal of something lurking just beneath the surface. Panic turned to dread, each heartbeat reverberating in the silence, urging her toward a choice that felt increasingly impossible. Lucas, she cried again, her voice shattering the oppressive quiet. I'm coming. But as the last word faded, it was replaced by the sinister laughter of the figures surrounding her. They closed in, their forms shimmering in and out of existence, reminding her of lost fragments of herself. You think you can escape the past? Their voices dripped with scorn. You can't outrun what you are. Jessie's head spun. The shadows twisted and moaned, drawing close enough that she could feel their cold breath against her skin. She felt them wrap around her, siphoning away her resolve. The bright glow seemed to dim farther away, taunting her with hope that felt just beyond her grasp. Then she remembered the comfort of Lucas's laughter, the warmth of his embrace. Gathering her strength, Jessie shouted, I choose him. I choose my son. The words echoed back, filled with desperation, but the response was haunting. A chorus of whispers came crashing down. But what if he's not lost? What if he's been waiting for you to join him in the dark? The shadows danced, mischievous and cruel, probing at her heart, twisting her memories into dark shapes. Jessie fought against the tide of despair. Her thoughts raced. Images returned, moments she wished she could take back, glimpses of secrets she had buried deep. Her feet shifted on the soft carpet of shadows, panic clawing at her throat. Was it truly Lucas on the other side, or a cunning deception wrapped in warmth? Suddenly, the laughter of the figures turned to a crescendo of howls, erupting into something primal and hungry. Jessie stumbled back, her breath quickening. The light wavered, flickering like a candle in a storm, and she felt the pull of the shadows grow stronger around her. "Jessie, come home," they hissed. "Just let go." The oppressive weight pressed down on her like a vice. But amidst it all, the echo of Lucas's voice began to crystallize. "Mom, you're strong. Don't listen to them." His words sparked a fire of defiance within her. "Stop," she screamed, pushing against the shadows that clawed at her ankles. "I want to let you take me." In that moment of rebellion, the air shifted. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in dismay, as she concentrated on the light. It shimmered, thick with the energy of her love, blooming like a rose against the dark, the only warmth in this frozen nightmare. But as she dove toward the radiant pulse, she caught a glimpse of a new figure emerging, smaller, desperate, with tear-stained cheeks and pleading eyes. It was Lucas. "Mom, help me," he cried. Time froze. A surge of panic slammed against her chest as she grappled with the sight of her boy, caught in the web of darkness but reaching for her. Could this be real? Was it truly him, or was it another cruel illusion crafted to ensnare her? Their eyes locked, hers filled with fear and raging hope, his with pure desperation. The shadows lurked in corners, whispering and thrumming with menace, and it hit her hard. The figures wanted her both ways, wanted her to choose. Every heartbeat echoed back the question, what would she sacrifice? Just then, the shadows launched forward again, as if sensing her wavering resolve. Jessie knew she had to act fast, but the choice felt impossibly heavy. As she lunged towards Lucas, an anguished scream pierced through the air. The light flickered dangerously, shadowy tendrils seizing the space around them. A split-second choice loomed ahead. Go after Lucas or stay in the fight against the past threatening to consume her. With a rush of breath, she turned toward the shadows swirling in chaos. The grip of fate tightened as she took a final stand, ready to confront the essence of her despair. What awaited her was unknown, a terrifying revelation or salvation. And as the shadows lunged one last time, she realized one terrifying truth. The very choice she feared might seal their fate, bind them forever in an endless loop of torment. Jessie's heart hammered in her chest, a drumbeat of fear echoing in her ears. It was now or never. The shadows writhing around her were pulsing with dark energy, urging her to confront her worst fears. She felt a sickening churn in her stomach as she pushed down the doubt clawing at her mind. Lucas, was there real or not? She needed to trust her instincts. "Lucas!" she shouted, her voice breaking through the cacophony. The shadows recoiled momentarily, as if her cry held power. She could almost taste victory, but the figures, ever cunning, recombined, their faces twisting into menacing smiles. "Join him," they cajoled, their voices a chilling symphony. "He's ready for you. He's always been waiting." As they closed in, Jessie's mind raced. Memories spilled forth, moments where she failed him, where she let anger and fear dictate her actions. Flashes of that last argument before he disappeared surfaced, reminding her of choices she couldn't undo. Despair clutched at her throat, dragging her down, each breath growing heavier, gathering every ounce of her waning strength. She forced herself to look back at the bright pulse of light. It flickered as if taunting her, a beacon born of love, but that love rested so precariously on the edge of oblivion. Could she trust it? Was Lucas truly in the torment of the shadows? Or was it all a ruse to shackle her into despair? "Stop!" she screamed again. "You're not my past. I want to let you take my future." With resolve sparking like fire in her chest, Jessie took a step forward. The shadows recoiled once more, a ripple of unease crashing through their sinister ranks. Igniting her courage, she emphasized, "I choose the light." At that moment, the world around her shifted violently. The shadows screeched, their cruel faces morphing into anguished expressions. The light expanded, seeping into every crack and crevice, illuminating the darkness. Jessie surged forward, bridging the gap between her and Lucas, reaching out with desperate hands. "Mom, please." His cry pierced her like a shard of ice. "Help me." But the darkness didn't relent. Tendrils lashed out, wrapping around her ankles, yanking her back into the void. The figures wailed, their grip tightening, pulling her into their folds. Every fiber of her being screamed at her to retreat, but her heart waged war against the engulfing dread. She felt the light pulse stronger, urging her to let go of the shadows that sought to bind her to relinquish her guilt and pain. It promised freedom, but demanded her acceptance of the truth. Jessie knew what she had to do, but could she bear the weight of that choice? "Lucas," she yelled, her voice a thin thread battling the overwhelming force of darkness. "Hold on." But the very shadows that held her brought forth visions, a twisted mirror of memories, each one splashing against her like ice water. The night before he vanished, his wide, frightened eyes recoiling at her rage. The moment he was earthbound by her mistakes. What if he never wanted to return? What if he was truly gone? No. Jessie raged. Her mind fought against the despair. She couldn't let them poison her soul. Gathering every ounce of love, she redirected it toward Lucas, blaming nothing on him. "You are not lost. You are not my failure." And as the shadows screamed in agony, the light surged forth, nearly blinding in its brilliance. Jessie could feel the very fabric of the night unraveling, a terrifying and exhilarating sensation washing over her. But just when it seemed she would breach the gap, a shudder rolled through the ground under her feet. A deeper, darker presence surged forward, coiling around her heart like a vice, whispering sinister secrets from the depths of voice from beyond that spoke promises as chilling as the touch surrounding her. "Choose wisely, Jessie, for there is more to this than you understand." And as the flickering light dimmed, she felt a chill crawl slowly up her spine. The truth was waiting just beneath the surface, promising revelations that would change everything. What darkness lurked behind the fabric of her reality? Jessie steadied herself against the encroaching shadows, the pulse of light flickering desperately just beyond her reach. The chilling whisper from the depths of the darkness wrapped around her like a cold embrace. But that voice the shadows twisting her past was not her truth. "Lucas!" she screamed, her voice laced with raw desperation. She leaped forward, determination flooding through her veins. The echo of his name sent ripples through the dark, silencing momentarily the anguished cries of the figures looming behind her. "I believe in you. I choose you." In that instant, the shadows shrieked as if wounded. Jessie felt the warm light reaching out, pushing back against the seeping dark, urging her onward. She gathered the memories of Lucas, the laughter echoing through their home, moments of tenderness that softened her hardened heart. She remembered holding him, loving him with all her might, every moment worth fighting for. The light flared, the warmth enveloping her as she surged toward it, chasing the remnants of her fears away. "Together, Lucas. We can do this." And then she could see him, a faint silhouette emerging from the shadows, his eyes wide with fear and hope. "Mom." His voice thrummed with recognition, pulling at every thread holding her to the darkness. Jessie's heart leaped, every instinct telling her to reach for him, to grasp him tightly. But the shadows, sensing their connection, recoiled and lashed out, howling in rage. Jessie felt the grip of the past tightening around her, dragging at her heels, pulling her toward the gaping maw of despair. "Let me go?" she shouted at the dark. "I'm no longer afraid. I want to let you take us." Those words cut through, sharp and true. The darkness writhed, shimmering at the edges, as if recoiling from her fierce declaration. Knowing she had to act, she took a deep breath, focusing on the shared love connecting her and Lucas. "We're stronger than you think. We are free." With every ounce of her will, she pushed against the darkness, igniting the light within her. Suddenly, the light burst forth, roaring to life. The shadows shrieked, their shapes twisting and contorting, as if the very fabric of their being was unraveling. The bright energy enveloped Jessie and Lucas, pulling them close as she reached toward her son, who was now mere inches away. "Mom, please," he cried, tears glistening in his terrified eyes. And in that heartbeat, she grasped his outstretched hand, feeling warmth radiate like a lifeline through the chilling void. "Together," she shouted, summoning the last reserves of her strength and love. The shadows, now howling in fury, surged forward, limbs reaching for the vibrant glow they could not touch. "You belong to us. You can't escape." Jessie tightened her grip around Lucas, her breaths anchoring them both in reality. "We are not yours to claim." Their voices rang through the void, a testament to their resolve. In that culminating moment, the light engulfed them, erupting in a blinding flash that shattered the fabric of darkness surrounding them. Jessie closed her eyes, and for the first time since this nightmare started, she felt free, truly free. When Jessie finally opened her eyes, she found herself on the wooden floor of her living room, sunlight streaming through the windows, cascading warmth over her and Lucas. He was curled up beside her, asleep and serene, untouched by the horrors of the night before. For a heartbeat, doubt crept in, questioning if it all had been just a nightmare. But as she felt his small frame nestled against her, stirring in the sunlight, she knew. They were safe. "Lucas," she whispered, brushing a hand through his hair, a tear escaping down her cheek. He stirred, eyes gradually fluttering open. When he saw her, a bright smile broke through, illuminating the remnants of their darkness. "Mom, we're back?" he asked, voice raspy with sleep but filled with innocence. "Yes, we are." Jessie smiled, feeling a warmth envelop her from outside, filling the ache that had gripped her heart. They had faced the shadows, only to emerge stronger, surer, and filled with gratitude for what truly mattered, each other. As they held on to this moment, Jessie resolved to uncover the truth of Maplewood, but with a newfound perspective. The secrets would not chain them. They would navigate this together one day at a time. "Let us go get breakfast," she said, buoyed with hope. Lucas nodded, and as they walked to the kitchen, Jessie knew there were still shadows to confront. But for now, in this moment, light embraced them, and that the love she fought for would always guide their way forward. Together, they would always be enough. Now, I need you to listen and act. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and keep this thrilling content alive. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. I really want to hear from you. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference, and the adventure continues only with you.